Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today, we're going to be talking to Dr. Noah StJohn, who is the creator of Power Habits for Real Estate Professionals. He has written over 25 books on mindset and success, and we're going to be talking about how you can make more money in the next 12 weeks than you have in the previous 12 months. You're not going to want to miss this. As always, make sure you check out the links in the description below. And if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button and we'll see you on the inside. Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs. All right, today we're talking to Dr. Noah StJohn. Very excited to have you on the show and welcome to Founders Club.
Well, thanks, Oliver. Great to be here.
Thank you again. And one thing that stood out to me is all the things you're doing in the real estate space
Mhm.
around becoming a more successful real estate agent, helping agents make in 12 weeks what they've normally made in 12 months. And so I
Mhm.
want to dig into all that and get
Absolutely.
some of the magic sauce. But why don't we just start with just how you kind of got into the mindset and success coaching space?
Well, it started very organically because I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community, and the have-nots was my family. Now, I'm sure we've all heard motivational speakers. They'll get on stage and they'll say things like, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So, no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. And so from a very young age, I hated that life of poverty, fear, lack, not enoughness. That's what I grew up with. But I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I said, how the heck do I get from here to there? Now, of course, there was no internet back then, all the things that we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self help section. I just read over 300 books in the self help success, books like the classics, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, Dale Carnegie, all the classics, right? And I
Yeah.
read over 300 self help books. I really, really tried to make it work. The problem was, as hard as I tried, as hard as I worked, I really couldn't seem to get it to work because they all basically said the same thing. Set your goals, think positive, visualize everything. They all say the same thing pretty much. So at the age of 25, I'd been reading these books for so many years, but I wasn't successful. I wasn't where I wanted to be. So at age 25, I decided to take my own life. I decided to commit suicide at age 25. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I said, I've got to figure out, what am I doing on this planet? Why am I here? And I didn't know how to answer that question. So I went back to the library. This time I read every book in the spiritual section, trying to find out, what is my purpose? How do I find what I'm here for? Now, fast forward 5 years later, in 1997, I had these epiphanies when I realized everything that was missing from all of those hundreds of books that I'd spent all those years reading, and no one was talking about it. And I realized, aha, this is my purpose. This is why I'm here. So I sat down, I wrote my very first book called Permission to Succeed, which was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. And now you can see some of my books back here. I've now published 25 books in 18 languages. And in fact, I'm the only author in history that's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else in history has ever done that. And
Wow.
so, now we've helped our clients add over $3 billion collectively since 1997. So over the last 30 years, we've helped our clients add six figures, multiple six figures, seven, and even eight figures. And we've helped our clients in real estate in particular at hundreds of millions of dollars using my methods. So really, that's how it all started, and that's why I'm here.
I love that. So, first of all, what a story. I mean, that's a very powerful story and crazy that you tried to take your life and that all turned around. That's really remarkable. Um, the thing that caught my ear on what you just said there is that you've helped real estate people make hundreds of millions of more dollars.
Yes,
And so let's jump right into that. And why don't
absolutely.
we talk about how you do that, and then we can kind of go into the nuts and bolts.
Yes, absolutely. So, I talk about this in my books like Power Habits. This is one of my books. The reason I'm holding this up is I want to show you a diagram that I've shared with literally thousands of people all around the world. And it's a little hard to see, but it's right here on page 44. And it's a Venn diagram that I've shown to thousands of people. And it really encapsulates everything that I've been teaching for the last 30 years. So when we look at success, this is the thing that I have devoted my life and my career to. What causes success? Number one. And number two, what causes non-success? What causes so many smart, creative, talented people to hold themselves back from the level of success they're perfectly capable of? And it really comes down to these two things right here on page 44, Power Habits, which is right now you can see it a little better. But anyway, it's called inner game and outer game. So it's a Venn diagram, and it's very simple. So there's two circles, and they connect in the middle. The first circle is called inner game. Now, inner game is everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly. Now, as you mentioned, I'm a coach, and an author, and I'm also a keynote speaker. So I get to do keynote presentations and trainings and workshops for real estate companies and teams and organizations all across the country and really around the world, whether live or virtually. So one of the things I like to ask my audience members in my keynote presentations or my workshops is I'll say, what is one area of your life where your beliefs don't affect you? And here's what people do. They'll go, and I'll go, exactly. There's no place your beliefs don't affect you, right? I mean, your beliefs affect your health, your peace of mind, your overall well-being. Your beliefs affect your wealth, right? Your money, your finances, your business, how much money you make, whether you get that promotion or not, or whether you start your business or scale your business. And of course, your beliefs affect your relationships, your personal life, your professional life, your family life, and so on. So there's literally no place where your beliefs don't affect you. But here's the funny thing. You can't see a belief. You can only see the effects of a belief. So that's why, for example, you could be doing really well in one area of your life, but maybe you're stuck or struggling in another. For instance, maybe you're doing really well in your business, but maybe your health is suffering because you're working all these crazy hours. Or vice versa. Maybe your health is good, but you're not making the money you want, right? So it's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's a very customized, personalized approach that we take in my coaching, whether it's for groups or one-on-one. So that's your inner game. But then we also have your outer game. Now, your outer game is all the things you can see directly, right? That's the marketing, the sales, offers, funnels, traffic, all of the things, the nuts and bolts that probably everyone listening to this program has spent a lot of time and money on, right? To master your outer game. But here's the funny thing. It's only when you put your inner game and outer game together that you have the phenomenon called long-term success. Let me give you a perfect example of this. So I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles, about 1,000 entrepreneurs. These are highly successful business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate professionals, 7- and 8-figure earners, right? So very high achievers. So I was speaking exactly what I'm talking about right now, right? And I just finished my presentation. I was walking off the stage and a man came up to me and he said, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You are the coach I've been looking for. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. You can watch his video and many others on my website. But anyway, he said, I want to hire you. I said, okay, well, what's going on? He said, well, Noah, I own this company. I'm a business owner, and we've gotten to 7 figures really fast, but we have been stuck at the same level for the past 4 years. He said, I have thrown all this money at the problem. I've hired all these marketing gurus. He named all the big marketing guys. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on this problem, and we can't break through that income ceiling. And he said, as soon as I heard you speak about inner game and outer game and head trash, your foot on the brake and everything you just said, he said, I knew you were the coach I've been looking for. So he literally decided to hire me on the spot. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and firmly. They don't dilly-dally. They don't mess around. They don't say, I got to think about it. He just did it. Let's go. So I coached him and his leadership team for 18 months. Now, in that 18 months, we were able to scale his business that had been stuck for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in revenues in less than 18 months. That's a 600% increase in less than 18 months. And you can watch his video and many others on my website, like I said. So the point of the story, what's fascinating about this is that 90% of what I coached him on was inner game, right? Because he'd spent all this time, money, and effort on his outer game. And guess what? Hey, that got him to 7 figures. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing to sneeze at. But because no one had taken the time to show him how to master his inner game, that was, in fact, the thing that was holding him back from scaling up. So I showed him how to master his inner game. What? 600% increase. We like to call that hockey stick growth, right? You're kind of going along like this, and maybe you're hitting an income ceiling, you're going along, and then all of a sudden we put my Power Habit system in there, and then whoop, we go through the roof. So we have hundreds of examples of that, but that's a perfect example of the power of inner game and outer game. Once you put them together, you become unstoppable.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. We definitely like hockey stick growth around here. So very cool. And then I really like what you're saying about like inner game and outer game. So let's talk tactically now, how you're kind of advising people on how to improve their inner and outer game. Hey there, I just have a quick favor to ask. If you're getting value from Founders Club and you're watching on YouTube, just give us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. These things are free to do, and it really helps the channel. And it also helps us be able to bring better guests for you in the future. Now back to the episode.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to remind people of something that I said a moment ago, but I want to emphasize this point is that, yes, I have helped my clients at over $3 billion collectively, meaning multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, and 8 figures over the last 30 years. And 90% of that money has come from me helping people master their inner game. Okay. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about, and I'm on a mission, is to help people master their inner game. Well, what does that look like? Well, the first thing we have to look at is what's holding people back in the first place. In other words, what's causing that income ceiling? So most of the people listening to this program know what I mean when I say an income ceiling, right? You're grinding away, you're hustling away, you're working hard, but no matter how hard you work or how many hours you put in, you're basically making about the same month to month. I mean, there might be slight variations and so on, but it's pretty much an income ceiling for most people that I've coached over the last 3 decades. Okay. So you're hitting that income ceiling. So why? Why are we hitting that income ceiling? Well, one of the main reasons that I've identified is this phenomenon that I call head trash. Head trash. All right. In fact, I mentioned I've written 25 books. Well, I've pretty much written 25 books on this one subject, right? Which is how to take out the head trash that's holding you back. All right. So what is head trash? Number one. And number two, of course, how do we take it out? Okay. And so the first question is, what is head trash? Well, for everyone listening to this program, I want you to think about your goals. All right. Now, we've heard this a million times, right? Oh, you got to set your goals and write them down, pen the positive, right? Every self-help book, every self-help guru on the planet talks about goals. And why? Well, because we humans are goal-oriented organisms. We are always obsessively thinking about and planning and strategizing what is it we want, whether it's a new car, a new house, a new job, or a ham sandwich for lunch. We're always thinking about what is the next thing that we want. So let's think about, as just an easy example, let's say you're averaging about 10K a month in in commissions. Your income's about 10,000 a month. That's just a nice sort of industry average, and you want to get to 100,000 a month, right? Let's say you want to 10x your income, 10x your results, which we've helped thousands of people do, right? So it's a very good goal to have, right? I want to go from 10K to 100K a month. Boom, I want a 10x. Great. That's your goal. Beautiful. But you know what happens? What happens is that people don't talk about what happens after they set the goal, right? So you set a goal, great. But you know what happens for most people? Most people don't realize what happens right after they set their goal. And right after they set their goal, do you know what happens for most people? They go, I probably can't do it. I want to go from 10K to 100K a month, but I don't have the time. I'm too busy. I'm already working so hard. I can't work 10 times harder. I can't work 10 times more hours. I can't work 10 times longer. So, I don't think I can do it. It's impossible. Right. So, do you see what you just did? You set a goal. That's great. So, you hit a home run, but then you stopped on third base. Right? Because you instantly psych yourself out. So that is one example of what I call head trash. So the head trash is the voice in your head that says, I can't do it because dot, dot, dot. Right. And so what is amazing about your head trash is you always make yourself right. We humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. And so if you're saying, hey, Noah, I want to go from 10K to 100K a month, but I don't think I could do it. I'm too busy. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. I've tried everything already. I don't know who to trust. I don't have a coach. I don't have the right mentor, whatever it might be. And then you instantly said, here's all the reasons I can't do it. And guess what? You're going to make yourself right. So this is one instance for everyone listening to the program. You don't want to be right. You literally want to say, wait a minute. Why does that have to be true? So one of the very first things that we do with our clients, whether it's with one-on-one or with group coaching, is we get them to, yes, set their goals, which most people have already done that. But then much more importantly that they haven't looked at is, why are you telling yourself you can't do it? I'll give you another great example. I was speaking at another real estate conference in Phoenix, and speaking on everything I've been talking about here. And a man came up to me out of the audience right after the program. His name's Bill. And he said, well, Noah, I've tried a lot of this self-help stuff. And, what makes this any different? He's very skeptical, like arms crossed like this. And he was expecting me to like give him a sales pitch or, try to sell him or something. And you know what? I don't need to sell this. This sells itself. People, you either get it or you don't. And so I said, well, I don't know, Bill, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think makes this any different? He goes, well, I really like when you talked about head trash. It really makes a lot of sense because, I've been setting goals for years. I'm doing okay, but man, you're right. Now I'm really holding myself back and I don't even know why I'm doing that. And I said, well, did you want to sign up? He goes, yeah, let's do it. So I unsold him and he bought anyway, Well, then he ended up doing multi-million-dollar deals and then multi-billion-dollar hotel deals. All right. You can watch his video on the website too. So these are examples of how powerful this is when, number one, you understand what your goals are, which for some people, they do have to get clear on that. But much more importantly, why are you telling yourself you can't do it? And then we've got to systematically say, wait a minute, does that head trash have to be right? Or can I question that and start to take out the trash that's holding me back in the first place?
Yeah, I like that. I love the concept of head trash, and it's funny, especially in real estate, how many people will grow, and then they'll just hit that plateau and they'll
That's
just
right.
sit there for years.
Yes.
So why don't we talk about how to take out the head trash and go to the next level once we feel that plateau or feel stuck or feel like we're psyching ourselves out of hitting our goals?
Yes, absolutely. So, and by the way, I do want to mention, you'll see on the screen there, we do have a program called Power Habits Realestate.com. And because I've helped my real estate clients make so much money, we developed this specifically for real estate professionals. But my Power Habit system, there are 11 of these power habits. Now, I just want to talk about that briefly for a moment because it's very important that people realize that there are two kinds of habits. There's the kind that everyone else talks about, and then there's the kind that actually makes a big difference. The kind that everyone else talks about is what are called conscious habits. Okay. Now, if you think about an iceberg, all right, an iceberg the human mind is like an iceberg, right? I'm sure most people are familiar with the iceberg principle, right? So about 5% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions are on the conscious level, but the vast 95% are below the surface of consciousness. All right. So they're in the subconscious. That's the 95% of the iceberg. So you got 5% conscious habits, 95% subconscious habits. Which one do you think is going to win? So the way that I put it in my keynote presentations, when I'm speaking to audience members, is I'll say, all right, let's say you're going into battle and you have 5 guys fighting 95 guys. Who do you think's going to win? The
Probably the
95.
95 guys.
Right. But only every time. Only every
Yeah.
time. Okay. So the point is, what everybody else is doing is talking about conscious habits, right? We've all heard about habit training. And, the reason I got in this business, my main inspiration was Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a seminal work. It's a great, piece of self-help literature, But the problem is what Covey and others are talking about are conscious habits. That means, hey, if you want to be more successful, make sure you set your goals and make sure you don't procrastinate and make sure you visualize it. And they're talking
And
about
make more phone calls.
make more phone calls. None of that
Yeah.
is wrong. None of that's wrong.
Right.
The problem is it's up here. It's in the 5%. So,
Yeah.
so let's take Bill, who I was just talking about. Why do you think he was holding himself back? Do you think he woke up in the morning and said, you know what? This looks like a great day. You know what? I think I'm going to hold myself back from success today. Of course not. No one would ever say that. No one would ever think it. Why? Because that's a conscious thought. All of this head trash that I've been talking about and written all those books about and coaching people about, it's on the subconscious. Nobody thinks, I think I'll hold myself back from success today. But it doesn't matter because all of these 11 power habits that I teach in Power Habits Real Estate and in my books and my training, it's on the subconscious. That is exactly like you're driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. Okay? Because think about your goals. I want to talk about goals for another second here. So your goal is a destination. That's what a goal is. It's a destination. I'm here and I want to be there, right? I'm making 10K a month. I want to make 100K a month, right? That's a destination. So it's exactly like driving a car. So imagine if you're driving down the road of life, but you have one foot on the brake. That's exactly what your head trash is doing. That's what was happening with Adam, with Bill, with Brittany, with Brian, all of my clients over the last 30 years. We're unconsciously, unknowingly driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. So here's what happens in this industry, Oliver, and I want to touch on this because it's so important. Here's what happens. Everyone wants to be more successful. No doubt, right? We know that. Everyone wants more money. Everyone wants more success, more time, more freedom. We all want that. Okay. So what happens is they go, well, just let's see, I'm here and I want to be there. So there's obviously something missing. So you're driving down the road of life, but unbeknownst to you, you unconsciously have developed the habit of driving with one foot on the brake. So how long do you think it's going to take you to reach your destination? Right. A long time. Right.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. What happens is you go to guru number 1 and guru number 1 says, hey, you know what? I see you're not reaching your goals fast enough. What you need is to put a different type of gas in your car, right? Try this high octane gas. It's more expensive, but it'll get you to your destination faster. So you go, all right, you pull in the gas station, you put in a high octane gas, you get back in your car, but you're still doing the same habit of driving down the road with one foot on the brake. So you're doing the same habits, you get the same results. This guru number 2 comes along and says, you know what you need? You need a new set of tires. These tires aren't good enough. Try these really expensive tires. Because, these are the tires that I have and look how successful I am. You go, all right. You go to the tire store, you spend more money on these tires, put them on the car. You get back in the car. You're doing the same habit, same result. Finally, guru number 3 comes along and they say, you know what? You need a new car, right? Look at my expensive Italian sports car. You should get one like me, right? Look how successful I am. And you go, geez, all right. So you spend a ton of money on this car, but you're still doing the same habit, which means you're still getting the same results. So after all this time, money, and effort you spent, you're still getting the same results. So here's what I do that's different. It's very simple. I go, excuse me, did you know you have your foot on the brake? And you're like, no. I say, do you know if you take your foot off the brake, you're actually going to reach your destination a lot faster and easier, a lot less effort. You're like, really? I go, yeah, you just do these 11 things and you get your foot off the brake and then you're going to reach your goal, 10 times faster and easier. Like, where do I sign? You see what I mean? That's how powerful this is. So it is the opposite of what they're saying. They're saying, make sure you press harder on the gas. I'm saying, why don't we just take your foot off the brake? Boom, hockey stick.
Yeah, I like that. So obviously, I don't like the idea of driving down the road with a foot on the brake. So let's go another layer deeper. Like, how do we get our foot off the brake? How do we recognize if our foot is on the brake, and how do we overcome that?
Yes, absolutely. So, again, obviously, I go through the whole 11 steps, the whole 11 habits in my programs like Power Habits Real Estate, my books like Power Habits. But very briefly, here's something that anybody can do right now today. You could do this right now today, literally in the next 5 minutes. Okay. So,
Love
the
it.
first thing you want to do is yes, you have to get clear on your goals. We can't get away from that, right? As annoying as it is, we do have to set our goal. What do you want, right? And that's where we always start, right? Just like you're taking a trip. If it's a destination, where are you right now and where do you want to go? All right, you're at 10K a month. I want to get to 100K a month. Boom. Okay, so that's point number one. Now, point number two is I want you to then write down, and this is right where we start with all of our clients, write down all the reasons why you think you can't do the thing you just said you wanted. All right, so literally, I want you to start listing your head trash. List it. Well, I don't have the time. I'm too busy. My spouse won't let me do it. I've got kids, so I
I
don't
love the
want to miss
money,
their
yada yada. Yeah.
right. And so you're just listing all of these excuses, reasons, etc. Right. And then the third thing I want everybody to do is I want you to write down how much is it costing you to do this behavior, to continue to listen to that head trash in your head. Let me give you another perfect example of this. So I was talking with one of my clients, his name's Charles, and I asked him a question I ask all of our clients, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching. And I said, how much do you think your head trash is costing you? Exactly what I was just talking about. And without batting an eye, he said $1 million. Now, he'd been reading my books, he'd been studying my courses, so he understood my philosophy, what makes me different from all the other coaches out there. So he got the whole concept of head trash. So I said, how much do you think it's costing you? He said $1 million. And I said, okay, Charles, first of all, I want you to know that's very common. I literally talk to people every day. And that's what they tell me. Noah, my head trash is costing me $500,000, $1 million or more just this year, just the next 12 months, let alone the next 2, 3, 5 years, right? Because it adds up. If you don't take out the trash, it's going to get worse. It doesn't get better, right? So that's point number one. Point number two, I said, I tell you what, why don't you just give me 10% of that million and I will find you $1 million in the next 12 months. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes, yeah, that's a good deal. So he decided to do that. He literally decided to hire me on the spot. And, he invested 100K for a year of coaching with me. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? They don't dilly dally, don't mess around. Let's do it. He just did it, right? So he invested that 100K, which is 10% of $1 million, right? So I coached him one-on-one for a year. Now, as it turns out, I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him 1.8 million in just 10 months. So he gave me $1. I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. And then he actually emailed me and he said, hey, Noah, guess what? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife right now. We just bought a new RV. He said, this is a dream I've had for the last 20 years. He said, I've always wanted to buy a new RV and travel the country with my wife, but I never had the time or the money. And he said, now that I've got more money than ever before, and I've got more time than ever before, we're taking 7 weeks off. We're driving around the country. And he said, it's all thanks to you. So that's how powerful this is and how much it's costing you to not take out your head trash. So make sure whatever you do, whether it's, get coaching from me, read my books, get my coaching courses, whatever it is, you've got to do whatever it takes to take out your head trash. Otherwise, you're going to keep paying that cost probably forever.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree, and I definitely now you got me excited to go check out the book. That's for sure. Let's stick on that example that you just gave for a quick second. So this guy came to you, he hired you,
Mhm.
paid the 100 grand, which is obviously a big, a big number, but you
Yeah.
were able to, sounds like majorly deliver on that.
Mhm.
So what are the things that you coached him on specifically? Like, what were the head trash? How did he remove it? And how did he implement that into his business?
Well, one of the things that we do to remember, I talked about the iceberg principle. All right. So we want to look at we look at the cost first, right? What's it costing you to keep holding yourself back? And
Mhm.
then we flip that around and say, okay, if I get my foot off the brake, what's that going to cost me? Now, that is a very non-traditional way of looking at success, because see, what all the other motivational guys are doing is saying, hey Bob, you want to make more money, right? Well, get all excited about that money and think about all the things you're going to do with that money, and and they're trying to psych you up. Again, it's not wrong necessarily. The problem is, last time I checked, you're dealing with human beings, right? And 99% of human beings have a lot of this stuff that I've been talking about called head trash. So what's amazing about this phenomenon called success is we have a love-hate relationship with success, or more specifically, a desire-fear relationship with success. Okay. We all desire success. I want to go from 10K to 100K because I want more money. Duh. But wait a minute. When I make more money, what's actually going to be the cost of that? So one of the things that I'm known for working with my clients on is help them understand the cost of success. And that sounds counterintuitive, because it is, right? Because everybody else is talking about, hey, think about how great success is. It's so great. Yeah, that's only half the equation, buddy. You literally forgot about the other half, which is when you allow yourself to succeed, that's actually going to cost you. For example, some people are afraid of being more visible. Some people are afraid, if I'm really successful, I'm going to have to spend too much time away from my family. Some people are afraid, if I'm successful, I'm going to get criticized. And, I don't want to be criticized. So, I'll stay small. These are just a few examples. Another one of my clients, Brian, when he started working with me, when he started coaching with me with my Power Habit system, he was a realtor in Boston, doing fine, doing well, but he knew he was hitting that income ceiling. And so I coached him through the Power Habit system. Not only did he make $95,000 in commissions in just 12 days, forget 12 weeks, forget 12 months. He did it in 12 days, right? Basically 100 grand in commissions in 12 days after going through my program. Now he actually lives in Aruba, and he's got a thriving real estate business in Aruba. From Boston to Aruba. You're welcome. So there's a million examples like that.
Yeah, that's sounds like a nice move. Sounds like a move I would make for sure.
No kidding.
Okay, so we've gone, let's say we've written all the things down that we think are holding us back. We've identified it. We're ready to take out the head trash. Now that we have those things written down, what's the next step? And then how do we start transitioning that to like the outer game where we're taking action? Hey, real quick, we are growing our nationwide real estate team, and we are looking for agents and brokers who want to be a part of it. When you join our inner circle, you'll have access to private trainings, 100% commission real estate plans, stock awards, and the ability to refer agents to build a downline for passive income. Best part is you get 188 pieces of print marketing collateral for free on every listing to help you sell more homes. To learn more, visit 100commissionrealestate.com. That's the number 100commissionrealestate.com, or send me a message on any of my social media accounts. Links in the description below, and we'll look forward to talking to you. Now back to the episode.
Right, exactly. So, one of the things that I help my clients do is emotionally accept the cost of success. All right. Because again, as I mentioned, everyone's only talking about how great success is, which it is. It's wonderful. It's better than not success, right? I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. That sucked. There's nothing good about it. So having money, yeah, it's a million times better than not money. But remember, there's still a cost.
Clarifying question on this real quick. Is this like more money, more problems kind of what you're looking at when you say the cost?
I mean, it's different for everyone. That's why, as I mentioned earlier, it's very customized and personalized. Whether it's, so like, for example, I have a program called the 12-week breakthrough. You mentioned earlier that I'm known for helping people make more in 12 weeks than they did in the past 12 months. Well, that's called the 12-week breakthrough, right? And that's one of the things that we help people with, is to emotionally accept the cost of success. So when you say more money, more problems, yeah, but that means different things to different people. Okay. So it's not just one blanket thing, it doesn't.
So that goes back to kind of what you were saying.
Really, that's why, that's why the program that I give people is very fill in the blank. Literally, it's fill in the blank, paint by numbers. So they go, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was doing that. I mean, I've had grown men in tears in my seminars, grown men, like, athletes and real estate professionals. I mean, everybody, because they're grown men have been holding on to this for years, sometimes decades. Even Bill, I mentioned earlier, he literally said, "No, I learned more from you in a weekend than I have in 30 years of studying this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, you're welcome." Because I spent 30 years studying it, so I give it to you in a weekend. You know what I mean? So anyway, so the point is, yes. So, like I said, it's not just a blanket thing that more money, more problems. They're just
Yeah. So
different
that
problems.
it back to it not being a blanket, that
Yeah,
kind of is what you were saying earlier, where people look at success like, oh, that means I'm gonna be away from my family more, or that
right.
means I'm gonna be criticized, so it's
Right.
all that. Okay, that
Right.
makes sense. I
Exactly.
got
So for every person, it's different. It's a
you. Yep.
different cost of success
Yep.
depending on who you are. So, for example, many of my female clients have a fear of success because they don't want to be away from their family. And in their mind, me being more successful means I have to spend more time away from my family. Meanwhile, we're putting in systems in place where you're making more money and you're spending more time with your family. Like Charles that I just talked about, 7 weeks off with his wife driving around the country and making an additional 1.8 million. You're welcome. You know what I'm saying? So these are just specific examples.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. And then, so now that we've identified all of these things, how are we implementing that into the outer game and leveraging
Exactly.
that stuff to make things happen?
Exactly. Well, this is one of the reasons why I love working with real estate professionals, realtors, agents, brokers, because they understand this concept of which I've been teaching for 3 decades, which is a house, right? Most real estate people are used to dealing with houses and buildings. No kidding, right? So the point is the inner game is the foundation of your success, just like the foundation of your house, right?
Yeah.
So if you're building your house on sand, that ain't going to be a great foundation, right? That house isn't going to go so well. So
Yeah.
that's why, like Adam, who I talked about earlier, that example, right?
Mhm.
He had done well with his outer game and got to 7 figures. Hey, nothing to sneeze at. But because no one had shown him how to master his inner game, the foundation wasn't there. That's why he couldn't grow any further. He just couldn't. So once I installed that inner game foundation, then we take the outer game and whoop, hockey stick growth. So for everyone listening, you have to start with the foundation of inner game. And probably everybody listening to this program has, studied a lot, gone to a bunch of seminars and all that stuff. But I literally get people who I had one client who took my 12-week breakthrough. She was a self-described seminar junkie, going to all these seminars and doing well, but couldn't break through that income ceiling. In 2 weeks of joining my 12-week breakthrough program, she tripled her investment in 2 weeks. So she's no longer a seminar junkie. You see what I mean? You don't have to go
Yeah.
and run around everywhere. So we put the inner game in first, then we layer on the outer game systems, which is the offers, funnels, and traffic. We put that together and you literally become unstoppable because you're not holding yourself back anymore.
No, I love that. And it sounds like from what I'm hearing, it really, the inner game is where it's at, and the outer game things will just sort of happen. I mean, obviously you got to take the action, but committing to the action mentally and getting that clarity sounds like what you're saying is the name of the game to then all of the implementation of all
Well,
that.
let me put it this way. I take the opposite approach of all the marketing guys out there. All right. So the marketing guys, what they do is they shove marketing, marketing, marketing down your throat. Hey, Noah, here's what we need to do. Right. You need to do marketing. You got to do lead gen. And we've heard that a million times, right? No kidding. Everybody knows that. But the problem is, last time I checked, most of the people who are in business that you're going to meet are humans. Most people are humans, right? So we have head trash, right? So they're trying to shove the marketing down your throat. Meanwhile, you're fighting it in the first place. So
Yeah.
what I do that's different is I go, why don't we get rid of the thing that's holding you back in the first place? Get rid of it. And then, we can put all this outer game stuff, which you probably know 75% of it anyway. We just put those last few pieces in, boom. And then everything becomes easier because you're not choking on your own success. You're allowing it to happen. That's what makes this so powerful.
That's where the magic happens.
Yes. Yes.
Very cool. And then, so back to the inner game, then I know you're really big on affirmations and things like that. Like what should we be doing to tackle the inner game and take ourselves to the next level? Like what are some things that the listeners can implement like right away?
Yes.
Pardon the quick interruption, but if you're looking for a little extra help growing your real estate business, make sure you hit the link in the description below to book a one-on-one consulting session where I will personally help you take your real estate business to the next level. Book your session today, and now back to the podcast.
All right. Well, I've already mentioned many, many things here. So make sure you go back and listen or go back to the
Yeah.
show notes. And I gave you specific things that you can actually do right now today. And then another thing that you can do is make sure that you have what I call a loving mirror that is supporting you. Now, that could be, your spouse, that could be a business partner, it could be someone like me, a coach or a mentor. Obviously, I've been doing this for 30 years and helped people make $3 billion. So that would be a good choice. But the point is, you have to have who believes in you oftentimes before you believe in yourself. And the reason that's so important is because I have surveyed over 250 millionaires, multimillionaires, even a few billionaires. And what I've found is that in every single case, they had someone believe in them, usually before they believed in themselves. And so as you're going through this process, that's one of the things that I do for my clients, whether it's one-on-one, like Charles and Adam, or it's group like Tamisa and Bill and Brian, who I talked about earlier. So the point is that no matter what, you really need that person who believes in you. But what's so sad is that when you survey American adults, this survey has been going on for several decades, and they've surveyed American adults and they asked them, how many close friends do you have? And do you know what the actual average answer is for adult Americans? How many close friends do you have? The average answer is
Like
zero.
five,
Zero. No,
zero.
none.
Oh,
Yeah, I
wow.
know. It's a scary statistic. So literally over 65% of American adults say they have zero friends. Ugh, that's scary, right? So my point is, without that support system, it's really, really hard. Going back to your house, imagine trying to build a house all by yourself. You can do it, but why not do it like the Amish and do it together, right? You can build a
Mhm.
house in a day, in an afternoon. I mean, I had the Amish work on my roof here. They got it done before lunch. I'm going, wow, you guys are amazing. We need to be more like that, all of us, to get that support system. So that's one thing that is absolutely essential. So whether it's me, whether it's someone else, your spouse or whatever, you've got to have that as you're going through this process. It's really crucial that you have that support system because quite frankly, it's just easy to slide back into old behaviors if we don't have that support.
Yeah, love that. So key thing is the support piece. Last thing I wanted to end on with you is the affirmations, because I know
Mhm.
that's something that you're the
Yep.
key driver of. So why
Yep.
don't we talk about that real quick and kind of how we can be doing that better and kind of how it all works.
Absolutely. So, what I discovered in 1997, 30 years ago, is affirmations. So, if you can see that, this is my book of affirmations, which is spelled AFFORMATIONS, affirmations, not affirmations, right? Like this is my book from my house. You can get the book of affirmations or go to affirmations.com. And
Okay.
essentially, an affirmation is something that I invented 30 years ago, and it's using empowering questions to change your subconscious thought patterns instantly. All right. So, an affirmation, which we all know, is a statement of something you want to be true. So, a classic affirmation is, I am rich. And your brain goes, no, you're not. Right. So, what I invented many years ago, 30 years ago, is this affirmation method. So, instead of saying a statement we don't believe, we ask an empowering question like, why am I so rich? Why is it so easy for me to reach my goals? Why am I always in the right place at the right time? Now, those are just some very easy and simple examples of my affirmations method. You can go to affirmations.com and learn more about it. But very simply, it's using empowering questions to instantly change your subconscious thought patterns from negative to positive. That's one of the most important foundational methods that we use to help people literally turn their lives around, going from poverty to wealth, going from stuck to success, literally overcoming addiction, quitting smoking, quit drinking, lose weight, find love, make more money. I mean, my affirmations method fixes the very problem that millions and millions of people have, which is they just don't believe they can do it. All right. So using my affirmations method is one of the things that I am known for, known as the father of affirmations. And it's one of the foundational power habits that I teach.
So I'm just making some notes here. So it sounds like you're stating affirmations to yourself as questions, as opposed to saying, I am rich. You're saying, why am I so rich? And that sends your brain and the universe and all the
That's right.
things seeking the answer to that question, as opposed to just making a statement.
That's right. It's called the embedded presupposition factor of the brain, which is a fancy way of saying when you ask a question, your brain searches for the answer, right? So most people are asking lousy questions. Why am I so stupid? Why can't I do anything right? Why isn't my business growing? Why can't I get more clients? Well, guess what? You ask a lousy question, you get lousy answers. And that means a lousy life and lousy results. So when you use my affirmations method, you flip it on its head and you start asking empowering questions. Why am I so successful? Why am I so rich? Why is it so easy for me to reach my goals? You're flipping the question in your head. And of course, it's not magic. You have to take action, right? There's a lot of gurus or teachers out there or whatever, and they say, well, just think about money and it pours in from the sky. Really? What planet is that on? I'd like to move to that planet because on
They just
planet
leave out
Earth
the whole
here,
work piece.
yeah, on planet Earth here, we have to do this annoying thing called take action, right, to get results. So this isn't magic, it's science. But the amazing thing about my affirmations method is you're already using it. Every human on this planet is already using my affirmations method. The problem is, number one, they don't know they're doing it. Number two, most people are asking really lousy questions. So study my affirmations method using my power habit system. You put all this together. I keep saying it, but you become unstoppable.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time, Dr. Noah. Thank you so much for being on. For the people that want to go deeper with you or connect with you, what's the best way to go do that?
Well, you can go to Power Habits Real Estate. You see that right there, powerhabitsrealestate.com. That is for real estate professionals, my Power Habit system, specifically for real estate professionals. And if you want to get coaching from me or talk to me or one of my coaches, just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com. I'm known as the Breakthrough Coach, easy to remember. So breakthroughwithnoah.com, and we can give you a 15-minute business evaluation. We'll look at the number one thing that's blocking you from going from where you are to where you want to be. And then we'll give you a 3-step method, 3-step process to literally go from where you are to where you want to be faster than you ever thought possible, literally in the next 12 weeks. So that's breakthroughwithnoah.com.
I love that. Well, guys, definitely go check his stuff out. I think he's doing some really cool things with just getting the inner game dialed in, translating that to action with the outer game. Check out the books at the very least. You can probably get those on Amazon, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And as always, make sure you check out the links in the description below. And if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button because this is the show for you. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks again.